morning, Tartaria Australia and Autodidactic. How are you, buddy? It's been a while since we hit a live show together. How you going?
It has. Yeah, doing well. Over here in the West still. Crazy times, but yeah. Obviously you've had a few interesting life moments too. So but yeah, it's time to get back into it. I think it's all energy's been a bit weird. Energy sort of was a bit slow for a while as well. Everything kind of stopped, but I
Yeah.
think we're both feeling the call. So
Oh, yeah, for
once
sure.
again, we're back.
Yeah. How many
This time
times
we'll
we
stay
said that? We're back.
I
Yeah,
know, right?
I've had there's a few second delay between Campbell and I today. Just heads up our audience. Campbell and I are pretty used to working with the distance between Perth and Melbourne. Literally, there seems to always be a few seconds between us. But yeah, I've had a big month. The last month, as you guys know, I went to my farm and did a big reno, and then got back. And my dearest, oldest, best friend actually passed away from stomach cancer. So I've been in the process of assisting her and being by her side for the last 4 weeks. And it's been a massive life experience for me. I've been dealing with the dying process really upfront and personally, and I was her main carer for the last 4 weeks. So yeah, I mean, I mentioned that because obviously I feel like, what's coming for, I guess, the planet and its future, potentially we're all going to be dealing with a bit of grief and a bit of death. And obviously, as far as Tartaria Australia goes, death is the greatest deception that we could possibly deal with on this realm, like truly far greater than any other Tartarian deception is our ideas around death. And I've just had such an upfront and personal experience with it, Campbell. Like, it's been a lot of introspection and thought on this topic. So yeah, I mean, it's important that as a community we talk about death and understand what it is and have some consciousness around it, because I feel like we're all going to be experiencing in one way or the other over the next couple of years. So yeah, it's been a big 4 weeks.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I can't. Not good. But obviously, everything, is a cycle, and it's like you say, Kel, we've been taught to look at this all wrong,
Yeah.
and literally people, people waste their whole life in fear of the end of it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I think, most of us understand that, death isn't the end. It's just a doorway, right, into something bigger. This what we're experiencing here is just a fraction of what we are.
Absolutely.
But saying that, death isn't nice. We still need to, deal with it. But yeah, I think we need that's going to be part of the new earth. I think is we need to start redefining things and re-examining them on what are they, because we don't talk about death.
No.
We just don't. And really, when you think about it, our experience of death is it's either funerals and someone dying, or it's fucking Hollywood movies, right? People going around killing each other.
Yeah.
With no emotion, with no, with no sort of link to anything that's human. So we've been disassociated from it as well, as far as we just don't want to deal with it a lot of the time.
I know.
I'm definitely, that kind of way.
And it definitely sets up this paradox, like everything else in our reality, where, we've got personally, when you experience death, it's a very, you've got to go through grief and loss. And that's deep, and it feels very real and personal. On the other side of it is you've got Hollywood, who represents death in a very flippant manner, like discards people constantly. Every film is made up of constant death and dying and shooting and maiming, and everything's discardable and throwawayable. People are just like nothing in the movies. There's no honoring to any of that. And then, of course, we've just had Anzac Day. And, I don't know how everyone feels about Anzac Day, but at this point in my life, I just feel like the army of all countries are just glorified assassins and, paid murderers. And I could have said that 20 years ago and it would have been a very horrifying statement to the world. I would have looked very ignorant and callous. But ultimately, like, what is our army? It's just another version of like having no regard for human life, just like flippantly glorifying and training these young people and paying them to go overseas, invade, and kill and murder in a way that's like okay and acceptable. And in fact, we glorify it and we sell merchandising and think it's like a very honorable career, and yet it's still just killing people. The army doesn't function as like an emergency service. They don't turn up in emergency services anymore. They don't have that capacity there. So we've got all these contradictory programs going on around death. And just like Campbell, just like the birthing process, where we don't honor the birthing process, we do it the most fucked up, satanic way in a hospital. We, do it the most ugliest version possible. The same is around death as well on our plane. And, and then we look at Tartaria and we have all these questions about who actually got born and how, and who actually died and how. It's like, it's a big topic, eh?
It really is. It really is. Yeah, lots of points there with Anzac Day. That I mean, I've never been a fan. I'm anti-war. I'm anti people killing each other. Especially, and then now that we found out, it's not even for country, right? It's for corporation.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if we go out and we glorify that every year, and we have this emotional blockage where you can't say anything, how are we ever going to change that?
Yeah.
How are we ever going to make the decision that, hang on, this was wrong? People who went there, you got lied to. That sucks, but let's not pass it forward. Let's not pass it on to our children.
Exactly.
That's never going to happen until we stop going out there and going, we must honor these people.
Yep.
And it's like it's one of these topics that, it's a no-go zone, right? I mean, we can maybe talk about it here, but you go on the media and say that, and oh my God, it's lynching time again. And isn't that interesting, right? You go out there and you say, killing sucks, let's have peace, and everyone wants to kill you, right? Yeah. But also with the movies, when you especially Hollywood, right? These people, these actors go around and they kill, like tens of people per movie, and they're portrayed as the hero. They're what they're the ones you want to be like. They're the big tough guy, or they're the smart dude, or they're whatever, when they're just murdering psychopaths. So this whole thing of, that side of death definitely needs to be changed. But that because of that, it's skewed our whole view of what it is, what it really is, and what life is, like you said, like this time, like it's so, relatable to Tartaria, right? The throwaway people, it was the throwaway society, right? So this is why we know that the people that have taken over, they're not us. They're not, because they don't have any regard at all for us or our lives, and we know that now, right? All these what are they called, charities and stuff that had us hoodwinked, that they're out there helping us. We know what's going on now. So and the big one is it's the death of the system, right? So there's going to be a lot of death around us, because everything's fractal as far as I see the world. It's like everything expresses itself in different things, right? In form, in whatever, sound, color. So we see, so when it's death, and everyone's going through the dark night of the soul, which is death of things, death of parts of yourself. The system's dying. People have lost jobs, businesses. Now people are going to be losing, friends and family. So it's a big death thing. But of course, what's on the other side of death is it's actually a doorway, right?
It is a doorway. It's a doorway, absolutely. And that never gets mentioned or discussed. It's so interesting with Tartaria Rising, because ultimately what we're all dealing with is death of the programming, death of the enslavement, death of the mythology that you are just this biological being that's going to die one day and that's it, you're done. It's death of all of that. So we've got the death of our history, the death of our culture, the death of death of it all. We're literally, death is going to play a major role. And of course, all the death that's going to come from a medical perspective, from whichever point of view you stand on. And all this whole last 18 months has all been about death, essentially. So, and we've got we've got such flippancy represented to us through all outlets, you know, not just movies, but music and books and media and the armies and all of these, and it's all gives us this idea that we are very throwawayable as far as a human soul is concerned. Like, that's how we're represented. You'd have to search hard for a little art house film that represents with care and beauty and love the birthing and dying process. Like, it's even like the Marvel films, which, you know, do have disclosure in them in the fantastical nature of us. You know, you watch their fucking chase a baddie through a city, and literally conceptually, you know, 10,000 people die in the path of like the hero chasing the bad guy. But that's just it's never resolved, it's never discussed, it's never presented. It's just this background programming that's consistently going on in this culture and represented very powerfully with the soldiers and wars and armies in reality, you know.
It just puts in the subconscious that other people that we don't know don't really matter as much. And there's the problem, right? Because we don't know them, they don't know us, so let's go kill each other. So I mean, the thing is, you know, we're starting to discover this, but there's always a different way to look at it, right? I mean, obviously, you know, death is a doorway, right? So people transitioning into something better. But you know, the other thing is, you know, I believe we're all here. You know, we choose to come here, right? We're here for a purpose. We're here to learn. We're here to do certain things. We're here to teach. So, you know, us, you know, it's the judgment thing. You know, this whole death is bad. It's us judging. Oh, they should have lived longer, or they should have done this. Or, well, a lot of people are old and sick when they die. They probably shouldn't live longer. You know, to them, it literally isn't like, you know, an awakening, right? They get rid of what's holding them back, kind of thing. So I guess the whole thing is, if we look at our life as eternal, right? And so this physical life is just a part of that, then it really changes the whole perception. No one dies. We don't lose touch with anyone. You know, you'll meet everyone again at some point. So yeah, this is the thing. I think, you know, we can start looking at it as something, you know, imagine looking at it as, wow, they've completed their mission. Awesome. Let's send them off with a party. They did their job. Imagine looking at death like that. And you just sit around and talk about how they change people. You know, you just talk about the people, what they did when they were alive and how they affected the world, and send them off with a party and a thank you.
Fuck yeah.
You know, and we can do that, you know, but we've been taught to do the opposite.
We have been, because it serves their agenda, basically. And also, like with birth, same thing. We should be like, fucking awesome, like little Johnny's back. Gosh, hi, little Johnny. We haven't seen you for a while. Like, just catching you up to date with what's going on, you grand old master soul, you. Like, but we don't. We like treat them like they're brand new and know nothing. So we don't bring it out in them. So we don't harness that truth and energy. So it doesn't become like this heritage line, this ancestral timeline. Like, our culture is very much about smashing that timeline, seeing birth as a brand new thing, a brand new consciousness, which is a deception, and then seeing death as the end of something, which is the deception, and not celebrating that like little Johnny's had like done his mission. High five, little Johnny. Like, see you soon, sort of thing. Like, report back, you know, whatever. And like, it really does serve the agenda that we are these, you know, and I guess the biggest way it serves agenda is that we believe it. And of course, so we believe this little cycle. But with Tartaria, we know that that wasn't the case in our history. Like, even, you know, the Bible would tell you they were living 1,000 years old. And then, you know, we've gone through this, like, we literally are immortal souls, but our lifetimes were a lot longer on this plane, a lot longer. And, you know, to get us down to like 80 years and really small, because I swear to God, people are shrinking out there, Campbell. Like, I fucking walked through Melbourne City and people are smaller. They are. It's true. Cultures are shrinking. We're shrinking a little bit and getting, you know, dying much younger. And it's just like becoming the norm. And we just perpetuate that and believe it. And then it becomes that and perpetuate till eventually we're going to be like fucking tiny little entities that live like a month. you know, like it's just like,
Yeah.
we've literally at some point had to think our way into this. Like, if we're the leading edge of consciousness, we've had to think our way through to this moment where we have thought our way to 80 years and, you know, 1.7 meters high. Like, you know, we've had to do that. Like, we're responsible for this consciousness right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, I think everything's fractal. So it's just a representation of where we are, right?
Yeah.
As our energy and our mental acuteness, you know, gets smaller, so do we. So does the world, right? The world gets smaller too. Now everyone's in, you know, everything's, you know, music, right? Music is smaller now.
Yep.
We don't have as much variety.
Definitely.
So to me, everything is, it's just the same, right? Everything's the same. It's just a fractal compression of, and we just view it we just interpret it and experience it in different ways. But that's definitely what's been going on, is the shrinking. So it's time to reverse that, I think.
Yeah, well, on that note, I saw this through my feed today. By the way, everyone, I just want, before we get started with the show, I just want to call out to the 3 awesome people that I ran into at the Off the Grid festival here in Melbourne. You guys were there at the ASEA 10 and you came up to me. I just want to say, you guys, because I went around for 2 days and spoke to pretty much every stall holder. This is cool, man. It was an Off the Grid festival, totally something our community should be engaging. It's really fun, fully unmasked. It was awesome. But I tell you what, like, I spoke to pretty much everyone, and those 3 people that ran into me from Tartaria Australia, they were the smartest motherfuckers there. I swear to God, because they were the only ones that knew anything that was really going on with this whole world and reality right now. Even the Off the Gridders were still all caught up in climate change and Black Lives Matter and this whole programmed realm of COVID. But you 3, call out to all 3 of you, like, give me your email, make a comment. I want to send you a t-shirt. You deserve it. Well done. You were actually the smartest people in the space. So well done, you. So Cambell, just on the note of, like, before we go into the show, I've had this map circulate my Facebook group. Now, I'm pretty sure you would have seen it. But I'm going to, because I loved it. Talk about reversing from a really small perspective to a really fucking big one. So I'm just going to share the screen and bring this map up. I guess it's in my, all right, let's go here. All right, it'll go black for a second and then we'll, hopefully it'll come up in a second. It takes a while to download this one. Now it's this big, massive, hang on, there we go. Can you see that?
Oh.
Have you seen this map?
Oh.
Have you seen it before?
No.
All right.
No. So this is all the maps together kind of thing.
Well, let me just bring it up so it's a full screen.
A lot of maps. Okay, you tell me. What are we looking at here, Cal?
Enter full screen. All right. This has come up. So I don't know, maybe it's just come out, but this is the digital version. So we are going to scroll right down to the middle here. Now, that is us, right? In the center there. There. Okay, here we go. Yep. So this is the flat Earth, I guess, model. It's a bit hard. It's a bit big to download. All right. And then around it, past the Arctic wall, we've got Asgard, which is cool. And the continents around the Earth, the past the Arctic wall. And then we zoom back. And then past that, we've got Atlantis and Lemuria, Argos, Talos. I mean, it's just a fascinating presentation, right?
Interesting names too.
The Ocean of Mu, which was Lemuria. So we've always been told that Lemuria and Atlantis were part of our world, right? They were, and then they've broken off. So Australia was part of Lemuria, but this map, based on, I think it's based on a few books down here on, but honestly, it's blew my mind. I just love the extent of it. So then we have all lands of Mars, lands of Saturn, lands of Vega, all like the lands of Jupiter.
So the planets
all the
What's around there?
planets,
Okay.
which I thought was
Which is
fascinating.
something we've talked about before.
Yes.
Yeah, like this is the thing. How do they, if they are going to Mars, how are
Yep,
they doing it, right? It's got to be
exactly.
sideways.
So lands of Mars.
Anunnaki
Yep.
lands.
And I just loved how, like, whether or not this is anywhere close to consciousness, it's such an amazing presentation of how it could be. Let's see if I can. All right. So over here, we've got the Arcturus, Andromeda, Pegasus, the lands of Jupiter down the bottom here. Is it moving? Can you see it as I'm scrolling?
Yeah.
There's Nibiru with Marduk. So Nibiru's always been set up as a planet. But so imagine if our planets in our solar system were actually broader continents on the flat realm, and that the flat realm is actually maintaining all of that into one flat plane, but so like basically the whole known universe to us, all of the things that we would know to be the universe here represented in one map. I loved it. You can see there's lands of Uranus, lands of Neptune, lands of Venus up the top here. The Pleiades. It's really overwhelming.
I mean, it makes much more sense. You know, if you look at that, like, you know, the story they give us of, you know, these people have come from a planet that's, you know, 12 billion light years away or something.
Yeah.
Compared to, okay, they flew for a week or something, or they took a week's boat ride. You know, it's like it's a completely different story, isn't it? And I mean, this is the thing. We've got the is it the Mercator projection, the planisphere?
Yep.
1497, and it shows the ring of Antarctica as land masses.
Exactly.
The whole way around, just like that that inner one shows. So. And then Asgard is interesting, right? The Rainbow Bridge. I mean, if that's out there, that's pretty much, that could be out where the Aurora Australis are, right?
Yep, absolutely.
The sky, the lights in the sky, Rainbow Bridge.
Exactly.
You know, you go through those lights as you go through that channel there. So it's food for thought. This is the thing, and of course we don't know this, and at the moment we can't prove any of this, and we're not even really saying it's true, but it's definitely a different way to look at it. And,
I mean,
and that's what we need,
amazing.
you know, even if things aren't true, we need to go there in our minds and you know, explore different theories and different possibilities.
Look at this one right over here, the lands of the forgotten humans. Can you see that one? The lands of the forgotten humans.
Yeah.
Lands of Hydra. Yep.
Oh shit, I don't want to go there.
Lands of the forgotten humans.
Staying away from the lands of Hydra.
Lands of Hydra.
Maybe that's who maybe we're getting invaded at the moment by the lands of Hydra.
Look here, toxic lands, the toxic lands, and Mercury. Like, there's some pretty interesting ones here. And there was an island of the reptiles. Where was that? I saw that before. Let's go over here and have a look. I mean, I just think, like, conceptually, this is a brilliant place to start. And
does that say, look at the top there, Castor Pollux.
The top one.
That's a Nicolas Cage character from a movie.
Oh, really?
I'm sure, like that name. His name is literally Castor Pollux. I'm just trying to think what the movie is.
Interesting.
Wow, I'm gonna have to look at that. That's bizarre.
Yeah. And then over here on the side,
this is the thing, they tell us all this stuff in movies, don't they? They're always talking about outer lands and all these, you know, fabled lands and blah blah, and they're always dropping these kind of names, you know, like,
look, the lands of Cyclops.
Vega, right? Cyclops. Like, wow.
So the guy who has produced it's called Nos Confunden. Nos Confunden.
Nos Confunden.
Yeah.
That's probably, is that non-conformer or something?
Yes, it says something like
German or something like that, or Sagittarius. Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, isn't it? There was what's his name? Martin. Oh gosh, I've forgotten his name. There's another guy, another flat earther. Haven't seen him around for a while, but he was talking about this and how a similar kind of thing where he was talking about how the wandering stars could be suns for outer lands, kind of like that there, like the lands with, you know, just concentric circles.
Yeah.
Of course, we've got Iwa and Non.
Yeah.
And apparently Iwa's just put out a new video. So
13 hours ago, Campbell, 13 hours ago, premiered. Can't wait
so
to
I'm going to
watch
have
it.
to watch that after this, and then
Yep.
we'll get it up and we'll get links around and everything for you guys. But of course, he talks about, you know, the astral clock, right? Is that what they're called? Astro clocks, with the Earth moving within a ring. I don't know. There's just so many. Who knows? Because that's the thing. If it did move like that, then we wouldn't have the Mercator map that shows all that land at one time without ice on it. It's almost like it's you know, sort of expanding and contracting maybe when we but that's cool, man. I mean, that's what we want, right? We want we want our airships, and we want to be able to travel and go out and check all this stuff out.
So
is the thing. And
so we know that space is actually inner space. Like, we know that there's that's a massive deception, that space is out here, is out there, is above you and out there, and you're going to it. I mean, even all the Marvel movies will show you that space is it's just a dimension. It's a multi-dimension. It's a multiverse. It's not this thing you go up into the sky to achieve. And so, you know, when you look at a map like this and you conceptualize that each one of these realms, so to speak, would have their own firmament, and depending on how broad their firmament is, how much of the land or the realms that they encompass, I guess. So you can see that the Earth realm right in the middle there is quite often replicated in other realms, where they have the central landmass, and then there's an ice circle around it, and then there's broader landmass and broader landmass. Like, that's repeated conceptually throughout most of these realms. So, I mean, and like, you can easily see from this perspective how insanely broad our realm could be. Like, if you were to look at like a firmament around that entire, for better word, if we say universe but mean like the multiverse, and that's all encapsulated in sort of a flat realm, you could very easily imagine that you can see from this scale of this how easily it would have been for our little realm here to be hijacked. And so then that leads me to this to this other video that I quite liked. Let's see if I can find it. I brought it up. This one. So have you seen this one? Did that just change shape on the screen? Are you on a new screen? Hang on. I have to stop share and start again, because
you might have to stop.
It doesn't move very well.
I know.
All right. Can you see that?
Like changing screens in Zoom. Yes.
Okay.
Imperio Tartaro.
So this is cool, because this video came through. So I basically, Campbell and I are starting a new opening section to our show, which is to pull out some of the cool stuff that comes through the Facebook page. And because you guys are doing so much of the most amazing research. So this is really cool, because it's basically showing you that the Tartarian structures were responsible for powering up our firmament. And so you can see that, because the show today, we haven't even introduced, but the show today is on the destruction of the Tartarian buildings across Australia, and the amount, the scale of the destruction of these buildings. So you can imagine conceptually from this, that if our Tartarian structures were powering up our firmament in a certain way, as a certain doorway, and then they took down all the technology and then re-hijacked that firmament and kept the density of the 3D realm here, that fear density, that lower density, like trapped. So we're basically trapped in a bubble of low density, because they've removed the technology that would power up that higher density, that higher frequency. So I just thought it was interesting. Let's see what you think of this. We won't show the whole thing, but just conceptually. Wait, did that move for you?
Yeah.
Did that? Okay, good. Could you hear it? Is it okay? Good.
No sound yet.
It's only music. Can you hear it?
Oh, yeah, no, I can't. It doesn't matter if it's just music. So, okay, it's showing. Oh, yeah, okay, I saw this video of this place. Yeah, there's a couple of these coming out now where they've got something coming out of the top of these spires. It looks like energy.
Mm.
And
So we've seen that
shooting
energy
straight up. So,
yeah.
So literally, if they were powering the dome, it could have been bigger, right?
Yeah.
A lot bigger, which means the atmospheric pressure would change, which means things would grow bigger.
Yes, exactly. And so very much like that movie where they shrunk everyone with Matt Damon in it. I can't remember what it's called.
Matt Damon, yep.
You know the one? What's that movie?
Yeah, it's called something about cutting back, or like what do you call it when you live on less means? Something like that. Yeah, something like that.
So the premise of that film is that they literally shrink hundreds of millions of people in order to then fit them into like a shoebox, which to the shrunken version of themselves looks like a mansion, and then these little amazing luxurious worlds, but they're just like would be model cities, train model cities to us. But to them, it was just like, an amazing, and they had a firmament, it had a firmament around it. And you can conceptualize that they did the changing the energy or the technology that powered up that firmament, our original firmament. Downsize. That's right. That's the movie. Because there's a reason why they've like taken out all the technology, and which has led to the destruction of all the buildings.
And look at the size of the buildings.
Yeah.
Clearly made for bigger people.
Yeah.
And they even tell us everything in the past was bigger.
Yep.
They tell us that they just don't mention the humans. They just leave that in the Bible and stuff like that, right?
Absolutely.
So, but they tell us, dragonflies, dinosaurs, all this kind of stuff, woolly mammoths, everything was bigger. So it's an interesting concept, isn't it? That if someone or some things from another realm could get in here somehow and turn off the power, and that would just start to shrink the dome, and we would start to shrink down, and it would change the atmosphere. It would maybe would it make us more carbon based? I don't know. There's a whole carbon silica thing, and there's a whole trees. That would mean if the dome was shrinking and the trees were really as massive as some of them look, they would literally have to come down, or they'd be poking through the dome.
Exactly.
Right? So,
and what if they somehow reversed it? Like, what if so if they've removed the technology that powered up the firmament that held the Tartarian culture and this giant race, and has resulted in the shifting of our sun and the downscaling of the size of the population, and obviously the shift also resulted in no babies being born, because then obviously we had the baby incubators and et cetera, and of course there's all this concept of like giant mountains that look like giant animals or giant faces, etc. And so if they somehow took the technology away and reversed it, and then that kept us in a very low density bubble, which of course shrunk us, because it can assumably, if you're existing in a low density, you would be, although the draconians that we would know about are pretty big motherfuckers, so maybe that doesn't fit as a theory, but there's a big effect, right?
But, I mean, it's gonna shrink us down. That's why probably if we're going on with this theory, we see a lot of 8-9 foot giants in the the early 1900s or late 1800s, and then not so many. So it could be a gradual thing that shrinks down. But if people were living in another atmosphere and then just coming in here for short periods, then they wouldn't shrink down, would they? And is that also like you said, half the reason why all the repopulation You know, were they helping to shrink us down, or was that more of a control thing, or changing things so they could take over and yeah, make us
I mean,
not
and
be
on
able to
that,
see very well, because something's definitely gone on here.
oh fuck yeah. And on that concept, like you know, I was looking at some of the artwork that went through the channel this week. Can you see that?
Yeah,
And there's
yeah,
all
yeah,
these like
yeah.
beautiful like old
Oh
paintings
wow.
with tiny little, which are
Nice.
just paintings, but then they've got like little people in them.
Mm.
You know, which
People, that's cool.
yeah, you wouldn't even notice it really if you were just looking at an art gallery and you came across these paintings. You
No,
conceptually may not have
no,
even noticed. But there's
no.
little
I mean,
humans.
you might think they're kids or something, but
Yeah,
yeah, most people wouldn't even take a second glance.
yeah, yeah. So there were some really good ones that came through. Like that one's pretty good because they're
Oh
not
wow,
dressed
that
like
one's
children.
God,
They're
that
not
is
dressed like
huge.
children. They're dressed like little men
No,
and little women.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're not posing like, they're not standing like children
No,
stand. They're
no,
like
they're not.
very adult.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So
well, I mean, is this us literally seeing the first of the introduction of the, us, the new shorter version,
yeah.
the new
Yeah.
smaller version?
I mean, something obviously we all know that something with the technology and with the reversal of the ether and with the shrinking down of the population comparatively to the giants, like it's all one narrative. It all fits together. It all is the same narrative, you know. And as we like go through the buildings, so, like in the show today, like it's all the same stuff. It's the same narrative. Like these are giant buildings made by giant people, and they've been systematically destroyed against all logical, rational concept. Like in Australia here, you know, when we're such a young colony, like so young in years, it makes absolutely no rational or logical sense to be demolishing the grandest buildings that our culture has, inverted commas, produced. Like you wouldn't do that. There's no sense behind it. So we just like,
No,
yeah,
none at all. And until the whole building, the whole city's built out and they've got everything they need, why would they be knocking anything over?
yeah,
Because the story is they had as much land as they wanted.
yeah,
They weren't
exactly.
fighting for space.
That's so
So
true. Yeah.
what?
Which is why I love Tartaria Australia, Campbell. It's why we're really lucky to be doing this here in Australia, because it's like it's so easy for us to like debunk the narrative. It's so easy because we've got such a small container around us. You know, 200 years is nothing. Like you can't argue with that. Like that's what they've told us. It's 200 years. It's a known fucking historical fact. End of story. And so everything can be held up against that, you know. Whereas, like, if we're in Europe trying to debunk Tartaria, it's much more complex
Yeah,
because you've got such a longer
it
history.
is. It is. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, even with that, then they go around and they've, given us dates to the cities. And Melbourne, they put in the 19. I was looking into Melbourne. They say 42, but I mean, now I was looking at. I couldn't actually find that date as a start date. All I could find was 1951, which is
Wow.
even closer.
Right. Yep.
Like they
What, for
kind of
the
say, oh
formal
yeah, there was
founding?
people around in Melbourne, but it wasn't an actual,
Yeah.
city until 1851,
Yeah.
which means that within 10, 15 years, it was the richest city in the world
Yeah. Beating
and
all of
completely built
Europe,
out. Like
all of
it's,
these established continents
oh
that
yeah,
have been
oh,
going through
yeah,
economies and economics for hundreds of years.
hundreds
And
of
we just like,
years, royal
Melbourne.
families with all
Yeah.
their stuff,
Yeah.
factories, and
Yeah.
yeah, no, bugger that.
No.
We're going to whack up a few buildings and find some gold and stuff is all.
Yeah. Yeah, mate, the narrative around Australia is fucking excellent to debunk. Like, it's so good for Tartarian hunters here. Yeah. I mean, honestly, Kamba is an excellent point there. You can't, like, basically create a new colony in a few years and then rise to be the richest city in the world. Like, that's impossible. Hello, you're comparing to
Just
London, for example. Like, hello. And then you look at, like, you know, the time, the amount of time, and then where the fuck did all the gold come from? It's bullshit. Everything about it is bullshit. We're not comparative.
it's
Like
all
even
the
today,
whole
like, and
gold economy, gold rush.
And even today, if you like, where does Australia sit in wealth on the worldwide scale? Like, you know, if Melbourne rose to be the richest city in the world in a matter of seconds, you know, we would have maintained that. But
that's a good point, because, well, they say that we're one of the, you know, most mineral rich land masses in the realm, right? And we've got one of the smallest populations, so we should still be the richest country out here, you know, but we're not.
No.
So the whole thing's done. But the whole thing about you find a piece of gold and that makes you rich when you're in Australia in the 1850s.
No.
Like how?
Yeah.
Like, who are you swapping that with? Who's out here going, yeah, I'll take that piece of gold and build you a house, because it's what are they going to do with a piece of gold?
No.
What, I mean, literally they've got to wait probably, you know, a decade before there's things set up where they can trade gold, and there's boats going back, and there's a gold economy, and they can change it for cash and actually get goods and service. So the whole story of someone finds gold and suddenly everyone's walking around with gold in their pockets and buying stuff, it's just dumb. It doesn't work, because unless that person can use that gold to get food and stuff, like, they're not interested.
No,
that's dumb.
No. It's just like you kind of, if you took what happened to Melbourne, like with the gold rush, and then Melbourne sort of like expanded into this massive, unbelievable city, which it did, like that amount of gold to create that amount of cityness so quickly, they would have been exporting, like, you know, hundreds of tall ships loaded to the hilt with bits of rubble with gold nuggets in it. Like, it would have been, we would have had to been exiting so much gold, like if we did it in reality, like if it was real, like it would be. So it's conceptually, it's so dumb. Like, you wouldn't even send that sort of gold on a boat back then in the manner that we're told those boats were. I mean, your risk level is so high.
Look at what they tell us about the Bahamas and the pirates.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
When they were, they were shipping gold around. Yeah, I mean, every boat was getting attacked. There's sunken boats everywhere.
You never hear about
a whole
pirates.
class of people called pirates got, like, you know, they just got it, you know, came out of God knows where, and that was a whole race of people that just lived for hunting down gold on boats. But in Australia, nothing. I mean, and this is the thing: if people were at war with England, and this was made, you know, it's a colony, right? It was made to get them more wealth. Why weren't people going and attacking Melbourne? Oh, that place is just full of gold. There's no population. They've got no army. Let's just rock in with a few boats and a bit of an army, and we'll just take all their gold and bugger off. Like, seriously. It's
I mean, exactly. We have the story that Captain Cook turned up and attacked the Indigenous, and then the Western world was here, and then the gold rush, and then everything was built. But no one attacks after that. There's no threat of no attacks on the Australian borders or people after that. And plus, like, we've got this, it always fascinates me that in every capital city in Australia, there's a fucking Chinatown, because the whole story around the gold rush is that suddenly the word had got out, and all these Chinese immigrants flooded into Australia, like out of nowhere, just randomly. China, not fucking Papua New Guinea or any other nations of China.
Not like, like the Philippines, it's literally just there, you know, but no, China.
Just China, all flooded in. These immigrants just like flooded in boats to Australia. We were just welcomed in, like, come Chinese people and go dig for gold. Then the Chinese people predominantly were the ones that were mining for gold. And suddenly, like, Melbourne's built. But like, there's no, so the amount of Western people that were here, like, to dig for gold versus the amount of Chinese immigrants that suddenly appeared here to mine for gold. So if the Chinese immigrants were the ones mining for gold, that would have gone back to China, which it probably did. And like, there was probably already and always a deal here in Australia between the satanic families, between them and China, going back to the very, very beginning of our known history in Australia. It was always about China, and we have Chinese towns in every city. It's a celebrated part of every single city. Why? Why Chinatown? Why is that so normal?
and they're everywhere. And the same story with, I think all America, at least California, it was all Chinese that went in and did the mining and everything. But that actually, see, that story actually makes a bit of sense. If gold was valuable in China and they had an economy and they could send boats down here, fill them up, and then send them back with gold, then that makes sense. That they're doing something with it. It's not just digging out gold in this far off land that has no economy to that you can use it in. So that's another thing. And of course, Chinese Tartary right on top of what used to be Tartaria.
Yep.
1800s, and we've got that CIA document that says they went out and destroyed Tartaria in the 1800s.
Yep.
Is that part of the whole story, right? So they took over Tartaria and then they go in and they take all the wealth that they can easily get, which is probably just pillaging all the old buildings in the old cities, right? They steal it all away before they send the workers in, because they don't want us finding that stuff.
Conceptually, when we think of gold digging and gold rushes all around the world, conceptually we're thinking people are using a pick and digging in the soil and finding these rocks that have a thread of gold through them, and then that gets mined and converted to the nuggets. But in reality, it was probably more them digging out buildings and raiding the contents of what was in those buildings. It was probably so much more akin to that sort of economy, that the gold rush wasn't nuggets, whatever. I don't think that was even a part of it. This whole, here in Melbourne, we've got Bendigo and Bathurst, and they're the big gold mining, centers. And you go there and there's all these fucking, the little metal barrels that used to roll into the hills and collect all the rocks, and then they'd shift it all. Illusion. That's Christmas. Christmas, it's a total disillusion. But really, ultimately, digging out these buildings and raiding the contents and pulling off, gold's been a big part of our history right back, hundreds of thousands of years ago, when according to sort of the, more esoteric knowledge, we were kind of upgraded to mine for gold, gold's been a big part of, our known or unknown history. So
and it's obviously it's one of the best electrical conductors as well, right?
Yep.
It's very in there with tech. So is that part of what they were after? But the whole gold rush, right? If you're in China, someone's like, oh, there's gold in Australia. Where's that? I don't know. It's 12 months in a boat. Oh, and what do I do when I get there? Well, it's really, really hot and you'll have to dig all day, or maybe you'll find a river and you can squat there and swirl a pan around all day. You're not going to rush there, right? But if someone's like, well, we found these cities, and literally just go in and fill your bags up and get back on the boat and bring it all back here, they're like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll do that.
Yep. It's a totally different game.
I just keep thinking about the gold paddy that we all got brought up with, and you see the guy, he's got his pan and he's panning, and he gets this microscopic little tiny piece of gold. And it's and he they put it on the end of their finger. It's gold.
Yep.
What you got to feed yourself with that? Come on.
Yeah, no, and
how do you even transport? How do you transport a piece of gold that small?
Yeah.
You can't put it in your pocket. You can't put it in a bag. You'll lose it. It's stupid.
And look, gold's really fucking heavy too. That's the other thing. Gold is heavy. Transporting the amount of gold to build Melbourne, is just it's so stupid. You can't even.
It's interesting you mentioned China.
Yeah.
Because if there were any boats around that time that could carry gold, it'd be the Chinese, the junks, right, and the galleons and stuff.
Yeah.
Those huge, because their ships were 2-3 times the size of everyone else's.
Yep.
So they could.
Oh, there's so many unanswered questions, Campbell. I know, all right, I'm just going to show you one more thing that came out of the channel this week that I thought was, I know you've done this to death, this topic. Many of us have, but I can't help but find it absolutely fucking fascinating, which is these dudes, man, the headless men and the crazy creatures that come out of our pre-reset times. Just to bring our audience attentions to how fascinating, I'll turn the volume off so we're just watching, but I mean, tell me where you've come up to with these like little creatures, like these headless men.
Yeah. I think it's all genetic
Genetic
engineering.
modification.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, look, I mean, yeah, definitely. You know, we've got obviously the orphans, the orphan, you know, the foundling hospitals, all this kind of stuff. The empty cities, the populations, you know, so it definitely looks like they've built a population, and I'd say that they were experimenting.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't necessarily, you know, and so they made all these things, and maybe they were testing them all. Maybe this person's good for this or this, and obviously they're the failed ones, right? Because they didn't continue production. Um, but we see them walking around, right? Like, and there's so many
Yeah.
depictions.
So
Even
many.
John Levi a few months, like 6 months ago, showed a photo of one of those that looked like one of those,
Yeah.
you know, like a dude with the head in the stomach kind of
Yeah,
thing.
right. Like an actual a real
Yeah,
photo.
yeah, like an actual photo. It was
Wow.
like a sepia tone. It was sort of from the late 1800s, but so it wasn't really defined, but it definitely looked like that. And we know we've got pygmies. We know we've got, you know, dwarfs. We've got different types of beings, right? And we just told, oh no, that's just. I mean, what do they? They've even got no expert. Oh, that's just, I don't know. The genes didn't work properly in that person.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that worked perfectly all the time, and then, like, you know, we're talking. You get something wrong in the genetic code of a human, and that they're dead. You know, just a little thing, and they're pretty much dead. They can't live.
Yeah.
But we can get these massive modifications that change your whole body shape, and they're still perfectly healthy. You're like, come on, there's something going on with that story. So yeah, I think, you know, sin, right? We're all born with original sin, genetic modification, meta sin, right? So yeah, that's what I think sin is genetic modification.
Yep, agreed.
They tell us the angels came down, bred with women, created giants.
Yep. I mean, sin is the inversion of the created gene, the inversion of the original creation. Yeah. So, and they mimic that in every way. In our culture, they mimic it with our seeds, genetically modified seeds. They mimic it with the weather. And once they mimic it, and now with the juice, once they mimic it, they can patent it and take ownership, and then they become the God creators. I mean, it's basically that simple.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's all about them being the creator God. They want to be God. That's it. They want, and to be God, they need their own creation.
Yeah.
So they've got to warp everything and say, look what we did. Not impressed. What's the next show?
Yeah. So I wonder with this sort of artwork, because like I'm obviously, it appeals to my artistic brain to look at these, you know, these medieval artworks and actually see these really repetitive, by the way. These aren't like one-offs. These are like those headless men. You could see them in so much pictation, so much illustration. Blue men, men with elephant trunks, you know, half bird, half dog, like there is so many. And they're just repeated over and over. Once you start looking for them, once you like actually care to take note, you can find them basically everywhere, all the way through the old books of antiquity, and the ones that are illustrated. They're just everywhere. And I know like many people have like looked at them and brought them up to the attention of the Tartaria community. And I was just like, wow, you know, we're so biased now. We're so prejudiced. Our prejudice is part of our programming, and our prejudice is very limiting for us. Like if we're to expand into a broader realm, you know, where inevitably all those realms that we looked at on that map just before, they're all going to come with life forms that don't look like fucking us. And if we still have a prejudiced mind that we could not imagine, like running into a blue man, for example, with, you know, a face in his stomach, or like, I mean, like, I don't know what happened here on our realm, whether it was them manipulating the DNA and the genetic code that has created like a sin against God or the creator, or if there are multiple plenitude of different forms and life forms in various realms. And our job is to like accept without prejudice, like what our eyes can see, because we're so limited by what we will accept. And if we accept nothing but this form, like, then how will we ever be presented with it? We can't be a vibrational match for it in our future. But having said all of that, those illustrations are consistently from the same time period, which is just pre the Great Reset. So what a crazy world we have forgotten about.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, they may be from other lands. We don't know, right? That they could be. But yeah, it's interesting too that some of them persisted. You know, we still have werewolves.
Yep.
Vampires. And a few, you know, like Yetis, abominable vampires, abominable snowmen, and all that kind of stuff.
Mothman.
Bigfoot. But we don't have Mothman yet. And the fire thunderbirds and stuff. But yeah, we don't tend to hear about the long-necked birdmen very often anymore. So
those long-necked the long-necked horsemen. They were fascinating.
Yeah, and the horseman, yeah. But we do have people in Thailand who put rings around their necks to elongate their necks.
They do.
Why do they do that?
Why do they do that?
What are they emulating? Just like the people who bind skulls, right, to make the skulls elongated.
Yep. And we've got the blue. We've got the blue Krishna. We've got the blue gods that come through all the religions. They paint themselves blue. Why?
They paint themselves blue. Yep.
And we've got we've got the gods.
Masks,
yes.
You know,
and the gods that they worship with the 12 arms or the elephant face.
Shiva and that. Yeah. Even Egypt, you know, with Thoth and all their got, the falcon-headed gods and all those kind of things. The ibis, which is actually the ibis-headed god, is just like the long-necked bird people, right?
Yep. And the Anubis with the dog head.
Anubis, the dog head.
So basically, a lot of
Cenocephaline, I think.
All of our a lot of the non-Western religions dictate these entities as giant gods. If you go through the Tartarian culture with the artwork, they're part of the population. Like these giant gods that are in our religions today, and especially in the Eastern ones, they were just like drawn into the normal populace everywhere in these artworks. You know, like you're literally seeing these 12 armed entities just in the population, or these blue people, or these, like long-necked, horse-headed people. So I mean, like our religions, those religions are definitely left over from a culture that has been erased to our mind and has now ended up in Marvel movies, for example.
I mean, it's a good point, isn't it? Like if we're going on this line, if we have been shut down, before that, if we had access and these people are coming through with technologies that we didn't know about and sharing stuff, well, that's what we call gods, right? That's literally the story of what a god is. Someone that comes from somewhere else with high tech. That's a god. So is that why is that why they're venerated? Especially in Egypt, there's a lot of tech around when you see these beings. Even in the Sumerian, depictions where you see giants and that, there's a lot of tech. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing is we can't judge anything, isn't it? As soon as we judge something as wrong or that can't happen or it's stupid, then we can't experience it.
Yep.
So it's like you were saying, we need reference points. So if all this stuff is bad, and then we're just going to try and kill them when they come in, right? But if we can understand that, oh wow, these are good, because we don't know anything about these so-called gods, really, do we?
No.
Nothing.
No, we don't look, honestly, we don't even know about the Tartarian culture, honestly. Like, we don't know if like us getting to understanding this is real and like deprogramming ourselves, that's sort of like the chase we're on. It's the deprogramming of all the things that we've been taught. But beyond that, we don't know if the Tartarians were like on the side of light, love and unity. We don't actually know that. I mean, if you just were to take it from what they produced, like in what the culture was around them, but then, can you have a service to self orientated culture that has a beautiful environment around it? Or do we have this prejudice in that service to self is going to look dark and draconian and like a bit like what we are living in now? and that service to others is going to look very elation and light and bright and grand and advanced. You know, we actually don't know that. We're still just coming out of the programming of our culture right now. And Cambell, like, honestly, as I look at these pictures and move through these artworks, and you know, there's something strong in me that feels akin, like, to these entities. Like, I don't see them as some, though I understand I understand that they could have been genetically modified and therefore like a fucked up version of God's creation. But when I look at these artworks, I'm like, I like you guys. You know, I would actually like to know you guys. I felt a humanness in the presentation of the artwork. I felt a connection to a culture that, you know, was just as bright and light as I am. I could feel, I didn't feel darkness in it. I felt a sense of heart connection. And like, I don't know if that's just my prejudice dropping and I don't have that sense of difference there, but the artwork that I've seen recently did not give me the sense that these people were aligned to service to self.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even when you just see that, you know, the populations, they seem to be, you know, together more, right? Talking more interactive. I mean, look around today at the society that, you know, we're a part of. I mean, no one wants to talk to anyone. I mean, it's almost a common statement now. I hate people. I don't go out. People suck. That doesn't seem to be the attitude of the old world. When you look at all these photos, it was all, you know, a lot more interaction and a lot more respect's not the real word, but you know, that I guess formality, maybe, you know, that people seem to be a lot more, you know, they take more care. I mean, look at the clothes they wore, right?
Yes.
But they also seem to be a lot more respectful and formal towards each other.
Yeah, and like the activities that have been illustrated, they're like doing things like picking apples, or you know, they're in farms, or they're like, you know, they're hunting, you know, like, but hunting like we would hunt. Like, there's not, you know, I don't see pictures of these headless men with their big smiley bellies dragging, you know, dead humans behind them. Like, I don't see them with like weapons of mass, you know, destruction or torture in these illustrations. Like, usually those artworks look like us. They're just gigantic versions and a little bit distorted, but the creatures that came out of that timeline, to me, they just look like beautiful entities that have a different vehicle.
Yeah, which is all they are, really. So yeah, that's, and of course that's literally where the word monsters comes from. That's what they named them, and then they start, you know, telling us they're monsters, and the fear comes along with it, and they're monsters, and the monsters live in your cupboard and under your bed, and before you know it, anything that doesn't look like you is a monster. Exactly. And to be scared of.
And yet the biggest monsters look exactly like us. Like, that's the fucking programming.
Fortunately, they do. Darker eyes, but yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I also saw a tablet which had it was a very famous tablet. And I'm gonna fucking forget the name. But it was an octopus. It's a famous tablet. It's got this stressful fucking octopus in the middle of it. You would know it if
like
I
a broken stone.
Yes.
Kind of thing, like a stone kind of broken around the top. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Let me,
it's called.
I'm gonna find it. But that looked scary to me. I'm gonna find it. Definitely felt like a monster to me versus, wait a minute. Oh, I've lost you.
Yeah, I think it's true, the statement that, you know, monsters live in your head. They're not actually outside us, you know, but the monsters are the voices and these things that make us do stupid things.
Yep.
It's not another being outside of you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so, anyway, I just thought it's worth bringing up because obviously, you know, we're doing these deep dives through our history and our past, and there are definitely stressful looking things out there, but those beings that came out before we did, to me, feel like us. And also around those artworks, there's huge rainbow bridges everywhere. There's fucking rainbow bridges everywhere. And there's all these beams going in and out, up or down these rainbow bridges, you know? So I just think that...
Yeah, often we see that. Doors in the clouds and things, and Vesica Pisces with people popping out of them.
Yep.
And of course, Rainbow Bridge, right? I mean, take the Rainbow Bridge to Asgard. So it's all somewhere over the rainbow, you know, the pot of gold. I mean, rainbows, they tell us, right? At the other end is a pot of gold.
And yet here in our hijacked firmament, without the technology around us, like upholding the gateways to the higher vibrational frequency realms, our rainbows don't go up. They go around and back down, don't they?
Bring us back to the same place.
it's like a bridge to nowhere.
Portals are broken.
Exactly. Rainbows follow the same path as the rocket ships. They just go up and then they go down, and the rainbows are the same. Whereas in all these artworks, the rainbows are always up and out, and then energies or entities are coming down to earth from the rainbow and up from earth back to another realm or whatever you look there. The rainbows to me represent the doorway to the multicolored multiverse, to the multi-frequency, multi-dimensional, multi-vibrational multiverse. But here on earth, they just go back to earth. It's part of the hijacking.
It's an interesting word, isn't it? Because I always wondered, like, that the rainbow is not a boat. Clearly, it's an arc, right?
Yep.
But I was just thinking, like, what do you call the front of a boat? Like a bow, right? Like rain bow.
Yeah.
Like, are we just reading that word wrong? Rain is water, like heading towards water. I don't know. Is there something in that? So when you're talking about universe, I'm thinking is, you know, they always tell us, right, in solar system, like, what do these words really mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that they probably refer a lot more to close lands than to, you know, spinning balls in space somewhere.
All of them, for sure.
Universe is like the one, I mean, the one song or the one vibration, right? So, I mean, it would be a universe if everything was on the same, you know, in the same realm.
Yeah.
They're all on the same vibratory sort of plane. When you're talking planets, that doesn't really work.
No, it doesn't work. Yeah. It's a look, it's so fascinating. It's so fascinating when you convert how we've been taught into languages of frequency and vibration and sound and color, like into that sort of overlay, because everything changes so dramatically. Like the science and the maths, nothing works anymore, you know. It's really, But hey, Campbell.
Did it ever?
Yeah, did it ever?
It probably never did, and we just started to notice it, you know.
Because like, and I was
also like spectrum, spectrum, right? Rainbow's a spectrum, and we've got this spectre, which is, you know, a person from another realm, pretty much.
Spectacles.
Yep. You can see they make a spectacle of himself.
Spectacles, tentacles. Like anyway,
like accolades.
Yep. So, and also like one other cute little quirky thing, which again I'm sure you've gone through before, but armor, the old medieval armor, the armor, I love it. Like, hello, they're energy weapons, right? Amazing. I'd never thought about that.
Yeah, I've got a half-done show I've never finished. I need to finish it. Some of the armor is just ridiculous. Like, I mean, if we think about how would they even make like a helmet, right? And I'm talking a plain, flat metal helmet. How would they even, you know, not talking about the elbows and stuff, but just a helmet back in the 1700s. Then you see what they actually, because we think, you know, that's what we get, this perception of they're all just plain metal.
Yeah.
When you see these things, oh my God.
Oh my God.
art. They're covered in, I mean, they must be covered in, sigils. It's got to have something to do with magic, I think.
They're
And what
just
were
stunning.
who were these people fighting? What were they fighting? Were they fighting? Because these things, was it maybe that's what you need to travel through through a portal? I don't know.
Oh man.
When
Like
did that thing?
they could harness energy. They would shoot energy. They're absolutely
Yeah,
stunning to look at. Like they're completely beyond our incredible imaginations. They're unbelievable, Campbell. I got obsessed this week
it's
about the armor. I should have
ridiculous.
gathered a whole pile of photos. But like,
It's
look at
it's
the
just
detail.
ridiculous, isn't it? I
Like
mean,
how was that made?
yeah, how?
How?
And then when you get into chainmail, have you looked at the
Oh
chainmail?
yes.
There's there's chainmail, and there's some suits of chainmail out there where every single link has got an initial or a name stamped into it. And we're
Wow.
talking these links are like 5 mil, right? 5 mil long. And
Wow.
every single one has got a stamp on it. So, I
Unbelievable.
mean, and we're just sort of taught to believe, and what a stupid story with chainmail. We're taught to believe that there's people with little bits of wire sitting there with what pliers, just bending them into circles and joining them together. And that somehow ends up in a suit of armor. I mean, it's just
Have you got any
when you
pictures?
start to think about this. Let's see what I've got.
But yeah, I mean, it's just unbelievably extraordinary. These outfits, they were just so advanced, so unbelievably advanced, and probably not heavy. They're probably completely different to how
Yeah.
we've been sold.
Well, they could have been, had their own energy source, right? And sort of almost been like like an exoskeleton type thing, because that would make sense. Because I mean, look at Ned Kelly, right? He made not even a full one. He just made a helmet and a chest plate, and he could hardly walk. And he
Yeah,
was like 6'5"
I
or something.
know.
He was a big boy. So
I know.
you're right there.
Yep, sorry.
Okay.
Let's see what Campbell has.
Is that it? Oh, okay. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, you share your screen, buddy.
So this is some chain mail. Now, I don't know if this is individually done, but I mean, you can see each individual link has got this little bit on it, this little pointy bit. Now, these are tiny. This is chain mail. They're tiny, 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 tiny links. Oh God, look at that one.
It's just so stunning.
And they do all that work so that someone can put this on and go out to war and just get it smacked with swords and beaten up.
Yeah, no way.
Destroyed.
This is essentially the real Iron Man, right?
Can you see they've all got, like, you can see on that one?
Yeah.
It's stamped, and then you can, it's not the most definite, but you can see each individual link has got a stamp on it.
Yeah.
How is that even possible? I
Amazing.
mean, they're clearly machine made.
Yep.
And look how, I mean, this is what they are. They're literally these circles that are just interlinked.
Tiny little circles. Yeah.
Tiny, tiny, tiny. And I mean, you can't even see the join on them. We're supposed to believe people were putting bits of metal.
Wow.
Here's another one. So you see that's got a full name into it.
Amazing.
And we're talking small.
Tiny.
Rings inscribed Berthold vor Pate, Royal Armoury from Leeds. So, yeah, I mean, it's just dumb, right? Oh, gosh. There's a helmet.
Yeah, some of these helmets are just extraordinary. Like, I mean, you've
interesting.
these suits of armor, to me, they are the real Iron Man story. They are the real Black Panther story. Like, I'm referring to Marvel a lot. I've been on a Marvel deep dive recently. The Black Panther and the Marvels, he just like, and he's got this whole like, what's the metal they use? Some metal, I can't remember. But it just like completely something like titanium. And it just appears on his body, and it's completely strong and allows him to do all this stuff and protects him and shoots. Like, it just, like, these pieces, this armor, this is that. You know, look at that. It's amazing. You wouldn't, like, create these works of art if A, they didn't protect you, B, they weren't a weapon to itself, C, if it didn't allow you to have all these special skills, which is what we see in the Marvel films. And you would not bother to dress up soldiers in these and send them to war to destroy them. I mean, they could have been time.
They even had high pants.
Yeah, I know. Look at that.
High pant armor. But I mean, even this basic set.
Yeah.
I mean, when you start looking at all these joins and the work and I mean, you know, seriously. And then, you know, you've got to be able to wear it, right, and stand up at the end. Like I said, it's all so heavy. I've got some back here. Like, just this kind of stuff. Look at that. The hands move. All right. So there was another movie. I think it was Guardians of the Galaxy, I think. And the main dude, he's got like, he just has like a button or something on his wrist, and he pushes it, and this whole suit of armor just covers his whole body. Yeah. So, you know, maybe these have got buttons on them. If you push the right place, I'll just go turn up into a little box or something. Who knows? But yeah, just ridiculous. I mean, look at that thing. And how could they see? Seriously.
I mean, yeah.
These are not made for people who are fighting, because the main thing with every single helmet, there's no side view. You've got no peripheral vision.
Yep.
So you can't see someone running at you from the side who's about to smack you in the head with the sword. You can't see them.
Exactly.
So it's done. Look at
look at that.
Look at this.
Why would you bother doing that?
Dude's riding. What? Why?
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense.
No. I fucking love the armor. Keep going. Oh, that's it.
Keep going?
Yeah, okay. The armor fascinates me. I mean, it's just so extraordinary. Like, if you guys haven't looked at the armor, like, this is an amazing aspect of our past that has just been like washed over by the stupid fairy books. Like, that's amazing. And the different
helmet.
The different helmets, Campbell. Oh my God, the helmets.
And this is, have you seen the what is it?
Wow, look at that. This one I loved. That thing on the top, I loved it.
Isn't it ridiculous?
The bird dragon.
And you see that, you can see how that would have morphed into what we're given as like the centurion, how they had the feather. Yeah. You know, they've just kind of morphed it a bit and given us, you know, so that we all think that, you know, because I mean, when we see this, we're going to go, how the fuck?
And like, look at the chest. Go up to the chest, like. I mean, and these essentially, to me, these would have been multiverse suits. Like, these would have been gateway suits. Like, you would have been able to travel around the realms in this somehow. Like, it's somehow wiring and firing with the firmament, with the gateways, with the race of people. You can't see a thing out of that. Like, what? This is not to protect you from battle.
No. And there's the is it the headless knight, or the one what the oh God, I've forgotten the name. Maravidicis from Italy. And like, they've got this, is that right? Yeah, and they've got that suit of armor with the snake or the big sort of worm thing coming out of it. And it's headless. So I mean, that sort of goes, you know, with the story of these some kind of travel thing,
feel
right?
Like that
but
to me.
You know, you could be a worm, right, from somewhere else, and you jump in it and you can come here, or you know, we can put them on and we go there. But
right, are you suggesting that the reason they're not set up to see the face or to see out is because any sort of form could be inside them potentially, that these were actually essentially what we would...
So I mean, almost they could, you know, to be in a different realm, you may have to keep the armor on, right? And so maybe all these knights, and knights is an interesting word, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
Why are they knights? You know, back in the day, a knight, you may have seen a knight and gone, oh, that's someone from a different realm. I wonder who's in there.
Like, are they any different from the stormtrooper outfits from Star Wars? Like you've got entities in there. You can travel outside of your own realm. Your atmosphere is contained within there. It's set up to be in alignment with electricity. The metals are very strong. Like they're multiverse suits, probably with lots of weapons. But gorgeous bits of artwork. Oh, that's freaky. That's just fucking. That looks like H.R. Geiger. That looks like aliens.
But is it? It is. But isn't it interesting with that topic? Oh gosh, my cat's screaming. If you can
so
hear
was
it.
mine.
Yeah, I mean, you could imagine this could be a suit of armor, or a travel multiverse suit that was made in a different universe, a different place,
a different culture,
and this is what they look like.
Yes,
yeah, exactly. So this is what they wear,
Yeah.
and someone's worn it over here and it got left behind, and the ones that we wear look more human-y. This is the thing. I mean, because they just don't make sense, and they're so all encompassing. Like they cover too much.
Yeah.
Because like in the protection, it makes you too restricted, so you can't defend yourself. So it kind of
too heavy.
Cancels itself out. Yeah, and too heavy. I mean, and we see all the pictures of them on war horses. Oh, here you go, having battles, right? Jumping around up and down.
Like, why would you bother using a sword on a suit of armor? Like, that's not going to be a weapon that makes any sense. To me,
you can just imagine the fight. So it'd just be these dudes hitting each other with swords, and nothing would be happening. They'd just be denting up their nice hardware. Like,
for sure, they weren't sold. They weren't. Yep. Say again.
And who made it all? I mean, look at this scene. Hundreds at least, but we're talking armies of thousands of knights.
Yeah.
He's making it all, and so perfect, and it all has to be tailor-made, right? Or else it's not going to fit you.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
and then like even these images of them stabbing people, with swords and metal sticks, like they're not going to get through that armor. Like it's a whole misconception. And I mean, ultimately they look like they're basically suits for travel. They're travel suits. They're gateway suits. They're, beam me up Scotty Iron Man suits. They're not designed for soldiers fighting battles. Look at our soldiers today. They wear fucking linen. Yeah. They wear cotton. That's gives them
exactly. Exactly.
What is this image?
Exactly. I know, it looks like he's might have, I don't know, traveled somewhere, right? He's got his little timer here.
Hourglass.
Sands of time, some different beasties.
Yep.
Different beasts down here.
Yep.
So, I mean, is that what they're trying to tell us? Otherworldly beings. Up here we've got a bit of, is that a miniature?
Yep.
That's from that movie, right?
Yeah.
They all bought like a miniature castle.
Yep. Well, that's just like
yeah, this is the thing, like if you get a sword and go and smack a piece of like corrugated iron, that stuff's like a millimeter thick. You will not get through it.
No, you wouldn't. You need an ankle grinder.
An ankle grinder, exactly. So what's the sword, I wonder?
I just find it fascinating. This one, you can move each knuckle, you can move each joint in your finger. That's how advanced this one is.
Yep.
Like how Iron Man is that?
It's ridiculous. The amount of work that goes into these things is just.
And look at the bottoms. Look at the feet. What's going on with that? Like, hello, how practical?
These hook things, what the hell?
What? So, okay, the premise here.
Is that for a realm where
yeah. So the premise is these suits actually were like kind of like capsules that would sort of like encapsulate maybe an atmospheric frequency band that enabled all sorts of entities and creatures from all sorts of realms to travel freely through the firmaments. If we know that the firmaments were based on electricity, the ether, so every realm would have an ether or firmament you'd have to go through. So these suits are all designed with metal. That's a consistent thing. They're all metal. the metals are probably not even metals that we know today. They're probably not even from the earth realm. And they're completely elaborate, like they're very expensive, prized after objects, as you would imagine sort of a space suit would look like. Certainly not anything to do with war, I would say. Because because you can't carry a sword in the air and swing it while you've got weighed down by so much containing you. Like, how could you? That doesn't make any sense unless
riding a horse.
And riding a horse. That's right.
But I mean, how many light swords have we heard about? How many swords of light? It's always light, right? Light sword, He-Man, right?
Yeah.
I am the power. And,
yep.
Star Wars. So what's even a sword, right? And of course, that's another interesting word,
yes.
S word, sword, literally S word. So what are all these things? All this tech, and we know it's a dumb story.
Yeah.
Because literally, we've got to believe there's peasants sitting around in the dirt in an old castle, and they're whacking out these amazing, artworks so that people can go and kill each other in them. Like,
I fucking love it though. The armor is such a cool one. Here's my little stash. Here's some of mine, just to keep going. Like this. Like, honestly, look at that little slit.
Yeah, I know, right?
I just do it now with your own hands. Like, how much can you see on that slit? Nothing. It renders you useless as a warrior or protector.
Yeah.
But
imagine riding a horse like that. Makes it even worse. You're going up and down, as you like. That's silly.
But if you look at all the all the Iron Man style, superhero style, or Star Wars, like they've got like electronics.
Yeah,
they've got
they do.
Yeah, so like they don't
it's always
need
like a little sort of slit thing, but they don't.
Yeah, so they can
has something been removed from them?
Yeah, exactly.
Which would make sense, wouldn't it? I mean, because look at that. That's just stupid.
So this probably could have just been, this could have been a little computer, this strip here. So like in Iron Man, you get this whole like thing in front of your eyes, which gives you like 360-degree, animated sort of perception.
Yeah, so you can interact with people in different, atmospheres.
I mean, that just looks like a stormtrooper from an alien culture.
Pretty much.
I mean, that's kind of freaky. You can kind of tell the ones that aren't human. Hey, like, you can tell the ones that looks like a girl.
Yeah. It does look like a girl.
It's weird. Which would define they definitely didn't have girls.
No, exactly. Explain that one. That they say definitely no girl knights. So all these words like arm, or knight with a K. I mean,
yes,
they're just strange words.
I mean,
even like male.
Yep.
Mail's something you send, right?
Yep. Chain mail,
plate mail.
So I mean, just to
what has the word mail got to do with that?
Exactly. And let's just remember also that these were meant to have been all built in the medieval times where there was no factories, that everything was made by hand. All of it, all this detail, all this imagery.
Yeah.
I love it how the penis is always kept free from the armor. It's weird, don't you think? Like, why? Aren't you guys all, that's your most protected bit? Like, wouldn't that be stressing you out?
Yeah. Oh my God, they're coming from my nuts. I mean, it's
I don't know what that is.
It's an interesting, but I mean, even look at the side of that last one. Excuse me. The side of the armor came down.
Yeah,
that dude wouldn't be able to ride a horse.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, see that how he's got those sort of bits that come down at the side? He wouldn't be able to put his legs up and out to get on a horse, but they'll probably tell you because of that big missing bit in the front, oh, it's so he could ride a horse.
That's right.
That's not going to work.
And then look at the elbow. How weird is that?
Yeah, wow.
It's just weird.
It's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
And all the imagery, I'm just wondering if the imagery has got something to do with where they've been, where they're going, something to do with the story, or is it almost like Stargate, right? Where they used to use hieroglyphs and that was the code to put in where you were going to travel to.
Yep. That is, that one from the side, that whole thing looks like a mask. Looks like the masks everyone wearing. But again, that tiny little pointless, fucked up, ridiculous slit.
Even Predator. Even Predator had like armor on, and he takes his mask off at the end of it, like, and he's got like his own little atmosphere in there. So I mean, are they telling us something?
I mean,
and the horses, I'm like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, this is intricate.
Maybe, who knows? Maybe you could take horses with you, because there is a lot of horse armor, but as far as a horse with armor on and a dude in armor on its back, it's not going to be able to run in and do anything in a battle. Yeah. It'll just buck you off and run the other way.
And be exhausted too.
Look at that. But yeah, exactly. They wouldn't get far at all.
These weird
and
things
they're the biggest, horses, right? We're told they're the most prized kind of thing back then.
Yeah.
So they get their biggest, best war horses and just send them in with armor so that they're pretty much going to get killed.
Exhausted.
None of this makes sense.
No, none of this. I know. To me, the armor is as profound and as cool as the buildings.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a spacesuit, right? That today they try and tell us you need the suit to travel out, right, into different places and see different worlds. Again, is it just a play on the story?
And I mean, for all of the
look at that. Is that that top picture? Was that an angel giant with two little people?
Yes, looks like it. I mean, like, basically they tell us that they make those battles with the armor and all that artwork so prolific from this era, right? From the 1500s, so prolific. But how many of us have actually seen a coat of armor? How many of us have actually seen armor? Like, apparently it's this thing that every knight had, every soldier had. And I mean, I've probably seen one set once at a museum once, but if they existed, there was no way they existed on the scale that the artwork tells us they existed. I just don't believe it. Or they're not here anymore. Or they've, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're just, have you ever seen a set of armor?
Not before I started researching. And the other thing is castles. We were taught, that, and we've all got a picture in our head of a square castle with a moat around it, right? And the drawbridge and the little pillars on the little spires on the corners, but now we know that's a star fort.
Yeah. So
we had this picture in our head of this thing called a castle, which doesn't exist in reality, but we thought it did. Now we know it's something completely different. I think armor's the same. We all have this picture in our head of smooth, right, plate armor with no pictures on it and dudes on horses.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist.
No.
Like it's yeah. So they've changed the complete narrative, which means they're hiding something.
Yeah, totally.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, why would you? This is so crazy.
What the hell?
Oh my gosh! Even the ears on the horse. Gosh.
It's yeah.
That's from 1548.
1548. No power tools, no nothing.
No.
And they're
look at the flexibility of those fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Amazing.
How are they getting the angles and the curves right? It's just
and those armors, like, they're pretty small. Like, that would be a pretty small person sitting in that. You wouldn't fit in that. Like if you consider, your chest would not fit
no,
into
that's a
that.
small person.
Yeah.
No.
And then why would you put a
No.
small
So again,
person?
who are these people?
Yeah, exactly.
They're coming from somewhere else, and if it's a warrior, wouldn't it be your biggest and strongest dudes?
Exactly. Yeah. But we don't see that. We see little.
Little.
Mm-hmm.
So are they that way because they're not humans inside them and there are other people traveling around?
This is what I'm thinking, Campbell. Like that looks like a child. That one. That's just
like elf or something, or
wow. That's mermaid.
What the hell? Oh, okay. Oh, and well, is that, look at that map we just saw before, right?
Yes.
And even in that, they had a mermaid realm.
They did.
Is that the helmet that takes you to the mermaid realm? And is that what a lot of these symbols mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Because every time they show us star gates and time travel and stuff, it's always to do with like putting in the right code, isn't it?
Yes.
And most of the time that code is like pictures. It's not, they're not typing in words, right? They're like hooking up pictures and stuff. So is that what all this stuff is?
What is that, Campbell? What is that? What is that?
Birdman. That's Birdman. What? Oh, is that what the? Is there a line coming out of the side of that horse?
A line.
A line.
Yeah, there is.
See there? Yeah. Where's that? Where's it coming
I do
from?
not know what this
What's
is.
going on?
What is this? Well, look, I think
maybe that's what happens when you go through the wrong portal with the wrong armor on. You come back.
Yeah.
It's like the fly, right? You get mixed up with species.
That's weird. I don't know what that is.
No, it's freaking me out. That's what that is.
All right, so
it's just. I mean, and look at that. That almost looks like biblical pictures, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk about the wrong time frame, right? They try and tell us the biblical times were way before. And of course, if you look into the Bible, the oldest Bible that we've got, like literally the date that we can prove how old the Bible is, it's the 1500s.
Yep.
It's like same time frame, right? Where we hear about all these beings coming in, right? And maybe be careful. One day you don't know who an angel is and who's not an angel, and all these sort of passages in the Bible, right?
Absolutely.
What went on back in the 1500s?
I was just looking at what was going on between this guy's legs.
What is going on between his legs?
I don't know. I think it's the tail of whatever he's killing.
I see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm moving now. Quickly, little dresses. Anyway, I think we've made our point here. If you haven't checked out the armor, can you see that one?
Yeah, the Spanish type.
Yeah.
That one. Oh, that one. Yeah. Wow. Okay. And look at that again. Like the symbol, it's all, ethereal beings and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Swords with and.
Ooh, look at the dude down the bottom.
It just gives that look of gods, and which we now know are probably just people from different realms.
Yep.
So it's a very good point. These just travel suits, right?
I mean, the size of the night that goes into the night suits doesn't make sense. They're small. The suits are small.
No.
Most of them would probably just only fit me, let alone like a big, chunky, strong man that you'd normally get to fight your battles. They're very decorative, which makes no sense. They're going to get ruined. They're very heavy. You've got no eyesight. Like, as far as these being protections from war, that's a bullshit story. That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all. And
the waist is always pulled in.
The waist, the waist is always pretty small, isn't it? And like you said, a lot of them have got funny shapes, funny shaped arm. What the hell is that?
Well, this is a weapon. I think. This is what the shields were, or the gloves of the armor, I think, operated like a weapon.
Is that? Oh, so that's opened out. I gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. Possible.
Okay. That's what that will. Yeah, there's a little handle at the top of it.
Yep. I mean,
wow.
Yeah. I mean, we have so little understanding.
That again.
Whoa.
That again, like that's where Predator wears his little thing. He's on his arm. He's like, doo, 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 doo. That's his little computer.
Exactly.
Oh my god. What the hell happened to that dude?
That's a bit trippy, isn't it?
That one's even got teeth.
Apparently, this is 1510 to 1520. This one, this piece.
Oh, that's why the face isn't so good, because so it's an early model. They'll get better. No doubt. But
anyway, see,
just in making them, I mean, oh wow, that looks like a kid.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense, does it?
No.
But I mean, how would you make, just to make a chess piece, like the curves in it are all different angles. It's like the ceilings we see in the mosques and that, they're all different angles. So even, I mean, how are they measuring these up? That dude's got a hat on.
Got a top hat, Cambell. I mean, that's a classy one.
I would believe that you could walk through. That's cool. The hat's awesome. That's what I want. Cool. But you could imagine someone walking through a scanner and then printing these. That would, because they're all tailor-made. But as far as someone sitting down and making it, where are they getting their measurements from? It's just
like, look at the waist.
And that one had very long arms too.
It did.
Yeah, wow.
Like, what is that? That's not a boy's waist. No fucking way.
What is that? No way.
No.
So this is the thing. Are these made for non-humans?
I reckon it looks like they're made for non-humans to me. I mean, I'm fascinated by it. I think this is like, I don't even know if that's a new one. That one looks weird. Like,
where's that guy's shoulders?
Yeah.
Man.
Anyway, I've got to stop. I could go on for ages because that fascinates me. And you know what? We probably anyway, I'm sure that has been enough to blow everyone's minds. If you guys haven't looked at the armor thing, like, it's such a cool thing. It's fascinating and I love it. So Cambell, we were actually planning to go through the destructions of buildings here in Australia, and it's been 2 hours and we haven't done any of that.
It's been 2 hours. I think, yeah, get a bit long with the tooth, aren't we? Jeez.
But take our word for it. Take our word for it. If you Google,
believe us, we're not going to have lots of buildings.
If you Google oldest buildings destroyed or beautiful buildings destroyed in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, Hobart, all across Australia, you will see the exact same buildings being destroyed in every capital city, particularly exhibition centres. Cambell and I did a deep dive on it. We didn't know this, but pretty much every capital city had a Luna Park at some point, and only 2 have remained. And we've got like this, we actually got caught up on Lake George in Canberra, which I think we're going to have to start the show on next week, because it fascinated us, these stories of Lake George, which is basically, to our eyes currently, a big flat marshland of nothingness, but the actual illustrations that surround it from the old realm are like fucking Camelot. So that's just outside of Canberra.
I think we'll do use that as an intro for the next one, because we actually recorded this whole thing. What did we record? Almost 3 hours, I think.
Yeah, last week.
The audio didn't come out, so this is our second attempt at it.
Yeah,
and this time we didn't even get to the topic, so we're doing well. But we're back.
But man, the armor shit, man, it's just the most amazing thing. It fucking blows my mind. I love it. And I'm sure our audience have loved it if they haven't looked at it before. But I think we're going to have to sign off for the day, Cambell, because it's been 2 hours. As per usual.
It has. Yes. We just can't stop ourselves. Yeah. So we'll hit some that topic maybe a bit later. Maybe I'll put together a bit of a montage for the end here of some old buildings. Go check them out. Check out Armour. Thanks for staying for 2 hours plus. If you're still with us, we do appreciate you.
Yeah.
And of
absolutely.
course, Tartarian audience are the best, the smartest. Yeah, so thank you for everything you do, all the stuff, and there's lots coming up in the near future. Lots of exciting things happening.
Yep, we're onto it. We're excited. We actually just can't wait to meet you guys. So, like, yep, stick with us. We're gonna have a good announcement next week. And for everyone who's watched the show, we love you. Thank you. We love this community. It's the best. It's what we consider our friends and family on this realm. And together, we're breaking down these stories and myths of history and these deceptions, and all of us contributing, because so much of that content came off the Facebook page. And like, we love your amazing, incredible minds, you outrageous souls, you plowing through this realm with your swords held high. I fucking love it. So you guys all have an amazing week, and Cambell and I'll see you next week for another Tartaria Australia.
You will indeed. Love you all. Stay awesome.